Exactly. But, you know, the town meeting's 6:30, so
At 6 o'clock, and we shall get the planning commission meeting started. May I have a roll call, please?
Chair Buckland is out. Vice Chair Doherty,
Here?
Commissioner Everett. Here. Commissioner Fisher,
Here.
Commissioner Hunter,
here.
and Commissioner Sun.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. I'll move on to approval of the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
My motion has been approved. And we have an approval of the planning commission meeting minutes from July 13th.
I move to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That motion has passed. Thank you. And we are going to move on to the public hearing. I want to open a public hearing to consider an application from David Warren for rezoning of the property located at 841 Highway 133, Paonia, Colorado, 81428, which consists of 3 lots, which are zoned medium density residential district R2 to estate residential district E1. The purpose of the hearing is to provide a public forum for all interested parties who wish to comment on these applications before the planning commission. The procedure for the public hearing will be as follows. First, there will be a presentation by staff. Second, there will be a presentation by the applicant. After these 2 presentations, we will allow members of the public to speak for up to 5 minutes. All testimony must be presented at the lectern after you give your full name and address, and I swear you in. Please do not repeat points made by others, but it is fine to say that you agree or disagree with a comment previously made. Please direct all your comments to the planning commission and not to the town staff or the applicant. After receiving public comments, we will allow the applicant and town staff an opportunity to respond and answer any questions raised by the public comments. I will then turn the matter over to the planning commission, and the commissioners may ask questions of anyone who testified. We generally will not ask questions during the presentations. Finally, I will close the public hearing and the commissioners will discuss the matter and may take some kind of action. Once the public hearing is closed, no further comment from the applicant or public will be taken. However, the commissioners may ask for advice from the town attorney. Public hearings are recorded for the public record. Do we have proper notification?
Yes, we do.
Thank you, Santiago. Do any commissioners have any disclosures?
I would like to disclose that the applicants are all friends of mine, but I have 0 financial interest in this project and feel that I can still make an unbiased judgment.
Thank you very much for that. I don't see any problem. So would Coordinator Bachran please give the staff presentation?
Sure. So the applicant's requesting to rezone 3 lots, consisting of respectively 6.9, 4.0, and 3.4 acres rounded, identified as lots 1 to 3 of the old Hops Farm minor subdivision. As you mentioned, the applicant requests to change its existing zoning from R2 medium density residential to E1 estate residential. Rezoning would allow the 3 lots to house farm animals. The applicant has provided the following with the request. That is a list of all the requirements, and they have all been met. The applicant's primary interest, as expressed to staff, was to be able to have farm animals and 2 single-family homes on each lot. Originally, Town Administrator Wynn suggested rezoning to E1 and applying for a code change to allow for 2 single-family residences on 1 lot. Later, staff reviewed the code and thought that it already allowed for 2 single-family residences. Interim Sun decided to put the matter to the planning commission, relieving the applicant of the request for a code change. These parts of the code are mentioned as they arise later in this report, but are not the focus of this rezone request. So like the previous ones we have had, this is kind of 2 different pieces, but this is only for the rezone. The rest was just kind of context. So the applicant requests a zoning switch to match the historic and current use of the property, which is agricultural. The applicant forwards that shifting the property to the E1 is in line with the 2025 comprehensive plan, and allowing the property to have farm animals falls in line with the property's quote, long history of livestock production and grazing. The applicant also claims irrigation water supplied by Farmer Stitch. So the town of Paonia's comprehensive plan provides several relevant guiding principles. LU Goal 1 is to preserve open space, agricultural land, interconnection with nature and wildlife habitats, and dark nighttime skies. LU Goal 2 is to maintain the town's rural character, historic heritage, and farming and ranching legacy. Policy LU2 is to maintain nodes of open space along Highway 133 in order to establish clear separation between commercial development and avoid, I think that's striping, development along the arterial instead of stripping. Policy LU4 is to ensure that the new development does not significantly impair wildlife resources. Below, I provided a map with the 2025 comprehensive plan zoning that provides future land use categories laid out in the comprehensive plan. The property circled in red is marked as urban farm, and I'm going to read what that description is. This area is defined by agricultural land that supports the practice of cultivating crops, raising livestock, and agrotourism. It creates a transition between town living and the surrounding rural farmland and contributes to conserving open space and agricultural land. This category plays a critical role in preserving Paonia's rural history and character and in reinforcing its local culinary farm to table tradition. Development in this area is minimal, but could include clustered and single-family housing to support agricultural uses, land conservation, wildlife corridors, and a voting flagpole development. In addition to falling in line with the comprehensive plan, rezoning the property to E1 would ensure the lots remain at least 3 acres in area, minimizing development that might impair wildlife resources and ensuring open space. So the current relevant codes are provided below. The R2 district is to allow for the orderly and creative development of attached and detached single-family, 2-family, and multiple-family dwellings in moderate densities. Such areas are intended to serve as a transition between the lower density zoning districts and the higher density residential areas and commercially zoned areas. Whereas the E1 district is to provide for orderly development of single family residential areas on 3 to 10 acre lots. Farm type animals, including horses, sheep, llamas, cattle, and goats will be allowed. Other animals will require approval of the town, except for chickens, which are allowed in town. This district requires adequate irrigation water rights if the property to be improved has been previously irrigated and water rights were utilized, and must have a plan for distribution. So the E1 zoning clearly fits with the comprehensive plan's goals of maintaining the land as agricultural and matches the designation of urban farm most closely. Additionally, the property meets most of the minimum requirements outlined in section 16.330 Schedule of Requirements Residential Districts. There is an issue with not meeting the required setbacks on lot 1 from Highway 33, which is a minor arterial route, which we'll get to. And then again, parts of the following charts are highlighted in yellow to indicate they will be reviewed by the Planning Commission for the public hearing in the second part of this meeting. So the first chart is just the number of dwellings allowed. The second chart is the yard requirements, and this is the one space where lot 1 does not match. All yards adjacent to an arterial street, major and minor, have to be 75 feet back for the setback. And there are 2 buildings on the lot that are about 26 and 50 feet away. Everything else, as you can see down the line, the sizes match the side yard, rear yard, lot width, percent open space, building height, all appear to match. The next chart is again put in here for context. Currently, there are 0 dwellings in all of this, no mobile homes, subdivisions, park and rec areas. There are 5 structures on lot 1, which include a farm, a grain storage, carport, utility building, and sun shelters, which may have been removed. Actually, the applicant can address what things remain. This is what Delta County reports. All right, so required findings needed to reconsider. Per code, there's a procedure for terminating zoning amendments. Request for the amendment may only be presented by a legal title owner of real property within the area proposed for a change by the planning commission or by the board of trustees. Request for a change in the boundary of any zone district by a legal title owner of real property within the area proposed for a change shall be accompanied by a petition requesting such changes signed by owners of at least 50% of the area of the lots included in such change. The applicant produced an application and the required fee that included only the property the applicant owns. Since there is only one applicant to propose zoning change, 100% of the area of the lots included in the change have answered in the affirmative that the proposed zoning change is acceptable to them. The applicant also provided a recorded warranty deed with a legal description that establishes their ownership of the property. Each amendment shall be submitted to the planning commission for its recommendations. Such action by the planning commission should be filed in a report to the board of trustees. So it's scheduled, we're here. The first requirement is that the amendment is not averse to the public health, safety, and welfare. And the request is reasonable and does not appear to adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare. And the amendment is in substantial conformity with the master plan or the existing zoning is erroneous, or conditions in the area affected have changed materially since the area was last zoned. The applicant's request is compatible with the current comprehensive plan for the town of Paonia, fitting well with maintaining Paonia's historical roots, rural character, and matching with the proposed urban farm zoning. The zoning does require, quote, adequate irrigation water rights to the property to be improved if it has been previously irrigated and water rights utilized, and must have a plan for distribution. The applicant has provided their ditch rights for irrigation. So based on review of the comprehensive plan, the zoning code, and the applicant materials, staff recommends approval of RZ 2026-002 to rezone 841 Highway 133 from R2 to E1. The recommendation is supported by the following findings. The rezoning supports Paonia's comprehensive plan goals related to land use generally, especially surrounding Highway 133. The rezoning does not adversely affect adjacent residential or commercial properties and preserves neighborhood compatibility. And the rezoning is more in line with the area's historical use than the current zoning. And there are a couple motions provided as well.
You know how wide right away in the reuse.
Oh, you mean the length that it's abutting the property?
Or from center line out. Highways tend to be pretty wide.
They do tend to be pretty wide. I don't know what CDOT has for this, because it is a state highway.
Deep on each side.
Yeah, and I can look that up during the rest of the proceeding and see what I can find for you. Property.
Just me, when you're talking about a highway,
Mhm.
the right of way itself is so wide, setbacks not as big of an issue.
Right, and there is. You know what, while the applicant's doing a presentation, I can do a Google map measurement to see how far the center line is to, or at least the shoulder is.
Well, you wouldn't know where the right of way.
No, I don't know the right of way, but I could tell you how far it is to the fence and then the next measurement. But yeah, DOT does have, CDOT has standard right of ways.
And they like a lot.
They do. They got their right of ways.
Even to the state. Thank you, Coordinator Balker. Are there any other staff comments? Okay. Would the applicant or applicant's representative please come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and take the oath? I know.
Just swear.
My name is Allison Elliott. I'm a resident of Paonia. Do you need more than that?
No, I,
Full address for this.
Okay.
yep, full address.
316 Oak Avenue.
So thank you. Do you swear to tell the truth in this matter?
I do.
Thank you very much.
Should I?
The floor is yours. If you could write it there on that paper also for the record. Thank you.
I very much appreciate the report that I just heard, because it certainly reflects my understanding of that property and the reason for our request from R2 to estate zoning. And not sure what else to say, except for we do believe that it does uphold you call it the master plan, and stays within, you know, the intent of that. Yeah. I don't know what else to say.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
I will open up the public comment portion. Anyone from the public have any comments?
We did receive an email,
Okay,
so we read it.
yes, please, if you don't mind, I can be
From
to
Kim Carter.
Ken Cardy.
It was received July 28th. It's states, it's up on the screen, Dear California. I'm writing about a concern over 841 Highway 133 development rezone. As we all know, this was a pretty big drought year, and I just want to make the community aware that the water that they have claimed for this development comes off my farm. And this year, that water went down to a very small trickle. And I wonder if anybody was watching that time of year because they were not putting it into their pond yet. I really doubt that it was for more than one house during March and April as the water dipped to an all-time low. Normally during spring, water goes to its lowest low. But this spring, it was next level and was literally a trickle. I sincerely hope that the town and all the constituents take this into extreme consideration, especially when allowing animals to be kept on the property. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you reading that into the record.
Yes, sir. Ms. Doherty has her hand up.
Yes,
And it may not be appropriate now. Tell me if I'm out of order. I can speak later, but I just have a question about that comment.
okay. I think
Well, it sounds like there's, go ahead, I'm sorry.
it's a fine time to ask your question.
Okay. Thank you. It sounds like they're talking about surface water, because this property is in the town, right? So the homes would be serviced by town water, is that correct?
No, the homes are serviced by well water, and there is a well study from a previous meeting that we have access to that does provide that the well has enough water for 6 homes.
Oh, really? Okay.
And the applicant looks like they'd like to add something as well.
Yes.
But that's domestic water. That well is for just domestic water. And we do have, as you saw, irrigation rights beyond what Ms. Carter referred to.
Okay, for livestock.
For the animals and
Correct. For irrigation, it's a very senior right of a farm that has senior water rights.
I attended the meeting where they actually split these properties. And one of the requirements was to have well and it's certified and they brought it on proof. So they have legitimate claims to the well.
So they do have domestic water service via their
Yes.
wells. And not on town for anything,
Correct.
correct? Thank you. Anybody else have questions, comments? Ms. Patterson?
Patterson, 381 Price Road. I was just wondering, why 2.5 years ago you didn't ask for this zoning?
If you wouldn't mind, Coordinator Balker, thank you.
So it was, in some ways, it was going to be original, it was gonna be a 2-step process, but when it started, the second step didn't kick off correctly. And so the applicant was originally asking for the E1 zoning, and they withdrew that application due to basically complications with the rezoning and the rezoning process. There was, as far as I could tell reading minutes, but which is what I did, there was no fault involved. It was just, I guess this one's gonna be fine. But they did originally want to rezone to E1. I think very literally if both were trying to be done at the same time and were noticed separately, so they couldn't be heard yet.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? Okay. Ms. Elliott, would you like to offer any further comment?
No, just that, like I said, I felt that the report provided was a good and accurate reflected what our understanding is.
Outstanding, thank you. Yes, Coordinator Bob.
I have pulled up a map of the CDOT right of way, and I am not talented enough at this moment to be able to pull up the exact dimensions of that right of way, but it does provide a visual map of it, and it does appear that that right of way comes within, let's say, 5 feet of that closest building.
Okay, so that's still technically legal?
For CDOT, yes,
For
it's not
CDOT.
on CDOT's property, it doesn't follow our right of way for those 2 buildings, but if the zoning is done, they will just be in the existing non-conforming buildings.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. It's helpful. Okay,
I have a question. Do we have any idea how long that building, which building is that? How long that building that would be considered non-conforming has been there?
I do not.
Is that
I would
the
actually, it will be in
itself?
It'll be in the packet if you pull up the Delta County paperwork that ends in 01. It should have all of the residences, well, all the buildings and when they were put in, if you scroll down. So. Yeah, so extra here. So that farm was done in November 6th, what's the date? It's usually on there. Yeah, that's the date it was reviewed, so, and it doesn't have a year, so 1980. That one has a 1980 for the second, which is the utility grain storage building. Or if you want to scroll up and check that exact same spot on the previous.
So this building would be considered non-conforming regardless of the zoning, and it's been there since long before these guys had the property? Is that accurate?
Yes.
So it would have been non-conforming even with the R2. zoning that was
Let me
before.
check the setbacks on that quickly. Actually, may have in your packet. No.
5 feet high.
Yeah, I think the setbacks are here. Two is this one, so. All yards adjacent 35 feet is what it says for R2.
So in effect, that non-conformance was approved when the R2 zoning was approved.
Yeah, and it looks like. Distance. 26 and 50, so yeah, it was not, one of the buildings was not conforming when it was approved, the other one was conforming for R2.
Chair, are we closing the hearing and moving into discussion deliberation, or where are we on?
We are closing public comment and turning to the planning commission. We're at that.
So my take on this, my only sticking point for the rezoning was, it's hard for me to approve a rezoning for something that's already in violation, but it's already, with that setback, it's already in violation, non-conforming, and has been since before they own the property. So to me, that's just an existing non-conforming issue. That was my only sticking point. I would be fully in favor of approving the rezoning.
I remember the property and I think when I first moved here, I might have looked at it And thinking myself, this might be more appropriate as an estate so that people could have animals. I think it perfectly meets, as previously reported, the goals and objectives of the code.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Everett. Okay. So,
Oh, you want to ask Margaret if she has any further comments?
I don't have any comments. I agree. It seems like an appropriate zoning, and it will have to, when it's rezoned, any development is going to have to meet the city's code. And the water is controlled by other agencies and other regulations that are we are not subject to this hearing. So, I think the rezoning is our only issue, and it's appropriate per the staff's report.
thank you very much.
I guess I have one more question of the applicant. Because the next part of our meeting is talking about dwelling units, and that is not directly tied to your rezoning. If it were to go that under estate, you were only allowed one dwelling unit without a special review, I mean, I'm just wondering where you guys are at. You know what I mean? Like, what's the driving force here? You want animals, right? And I agree with everything that's been said, that the E1 zoning makes sense for this. But then if the planning commission is to decide next, and ultimately the board would decide that they want to limit that or not allow the 2 single family dwelling units within that, does that change your direction at all?
The fact that 2 dwelling units are possible, right, is, we might have to live with that.
Okay.
But we also think that, it should be considered that 2, because those reasons, but it wouldn't, I don't believe it would shut us down right now, right, because it's still possible.
That's what I wanted to be sure of. Thank you.
Thank you, thanks, good question.
Any other questions? Okay. Before we turn to the planning commission questions and deliberations, I want to state that the documents included as part of the record for this public hearing include all application materials submitted by the applicant, all materials included in the packets, all written referral and public comments received regarding the application, the notice of hearings, and the town's ordinances. Does anyone have any objection to the inclusion of these items in the record? And are there any more questions from the commissioners? Hearing none, I will now close the public hearing and turn the matter over to the planning commission for consideration of the matter listed on the agenda. Oh,
I'd like to make a motion if you're ready for that.
I am ready. Bring it on.
I move to recommend approval of RZ 2026-002 because it does not adversely affect public health, safety, or welfare and is in substantial conformity with the comprehensive plan.
May I have a second?
I will second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Don't need a roll call, then.
Now, have a roll call vote, please.
Vice Chair Doherty,
Aye.
Commissioner Everett,
Aye.
Commissioner Fisher,
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter,
Aye.
and Commissioner Simmons.
Aye.
Your motion carries.
Awesome. Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Down.
David's Alaska.
All right.
Bishop.
Right.
Yeah. Right now, we will move on to the actions and presentations. Consideration of recommending changes to estate zoning table 16-1 and 16-2 of municipal code section 16-2-20 and 16-2-30. And Coordinator Bachman could you give us some information?
Sure. So the tables have some inconsistencies that make applying the rules to building requests difficult. So for example, this particular hearing, the request to clarify the tables comes out of the rezoning review for the old Hops Farm, as the applicant wanted to be able to have two single family residences. And there were two different readings of this section. Administrator Sund decided to send the issue of unclear code to the planning commission instead of asking the applicant to apply for a code change. So the attached tables, and they're actually three, not two. There's one section that you could use some interpretation, and that is table 16.1. One section that needs additional information or to be struck in table 16.2, and several typos that should be addressed. All of those are included in line with the Article 3 section. So the first one, it has to do with 16.3.20 has to do with the definition of two-family dwellings. Because it was interpreted that two-family dwellings was equivalent to two single-family dwellings as opposed to two-family dwellings as a duplex, which is how the International Residential and Commercial Code defines it. So I have those definitions in here.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but are those consistent with the definitions within chapter 16 of the PMC?
I didn't see those definitions in chapter 16. I may.
We do in chapter 16, our code defines single family and two family.
Excellent. Well, I will look into that as the second I stop talking. And then at the bottom, it says neighborhood commercial uses and then the number 4, which I'm guessing is a typo. And then the next section, table 16.2, it's inconsistent on how everything's written. So for everything else in this table, when it gives uses permitted by rights, it also provides a minimum lot area. And for this, it does list 2 dwellings in the E1 district permitted by right, but it does not list a lot area. So it's just, is it a typo? Is it deliberate? Is it 3 acres? But not sure what's going on with that. And then the last one is just a couple typos at the end of table 16.3, which just says utilities, then the number 2, and utility substations and the number 8. And I figured since we were in this code anyway, I would bring up those typos. And now I will go look for the definition of two-family dwellings in chapter 16.
I'm sorry, can I ask another question?
Please do.
So on the first, on table 6 or 16-1, that 4 is a footnote. So it does list, so that's got me wondering in 16.3, I don't see the footnotes listed anywhere, and I
love this. So we may just need to change the font into a
right, but I'm wondering where those footnotes would be for 16.3, because I don't see them anywhere.
I'm not sure.
I'm lost.
Yeah, they aren't there.
And it only goes up to 4 in 16.1.
The 2 is not relevant. Yeah. Maybe look at this. Oh, please do. Well, I don't know if while I'm looking for the additional information, I'll also look for footnotes to see if they're hiding anywhere, if
It says neighborhood convenience center, isn't that what that is?
Yes, and I'm wondering if that came about during the dollar store.
the Dollar General.
The Dollar General thing, where town was trying to limit big box stores, basically, and there were many different tax there that were taken, and I think that may be remaining from one of those.
Very good. Thank you for remembering.
There's a lot of context. Thank you. So I think that one is just literally trying to keep out the dollar store.
But that works because 4 does exist.
Yeah, it is
The
just.
question
You
is,
just gotta set it off.
that's the question, does it have to be a code change to make it a superscript?
I think that's Scribner's letters, and I don't think that requires.
And that's in Allen's. even with this other one that has a 2, that looks like a typo. It's like, why did?
On the third table? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big question.
And I went like even, at the ends of these tables where it lists all the ordinance for the different code, like I went back, I dug, I even tried to. And couldn't find those footnotes anywhere, so I don't think they exist for.
Yeah. Well, and the fact that the numbers themselves aren't a 1, 2, 3, 4
Yeah.
sort of thing seems to indicate that it's maybe typos.
And if they're in parentheses, it would help.
Right, something to
Something.
distinguish them.
And that first one, it doesn't make sense that as you get to less stringent zones, it stays permitted by right until you get to the biggest one, then it's safe use. So that also seems like a typo.
Does seem like a typo.
And me, the reason I put this on the agenda here is I don't think we should wait around for somebody to fix our code. When we see a problem with our code that needs to be fixed, we should fix it.
I wouldn't disagree with that. My only concern is I don't want to be doing opposing things at the same time. But I don't know what Leslie Kusmeyer is if she's currently doing anything.
She's not right now. I just talked to her Friday, actually.
Oh.
So I do have an update on
Okay.
that, but she was stopped by end of December or something. So I didn't get finished.
So the code does clarify it is the IRC, so strike that first part, we don't need that. It is a duplex or similar. That is permitted by right. Permitted by special review in the E1 district.
So my take on this is, so the first ask, getting rid of the 4 is not required because that's a footnote. The stuff in table 16.3 is Scrivener's errors, it's not a big deal. So the main substantive ask is, what is the acreage requirement for 2 dwelling units in E1?
Yes, accurate. That's what I would say, or. That's the
Or
question,
what else?
or it should not have 2 dwellings, right?
Oh, and if you allow 2 dwelling units, you've really kind of changed that zone minimum to acres. Per house. So it's the nations.
I think that's
Which would be
making
okay.
an assumption on the intent, though. Like if you look at the county standards, because I think applying the density requirements from the R1s and R2s and R3 even doesn't translate to the estate district. So in trying to figure out like what would be appropriate for an estate type district, and again, you can find anything. So it's like, do we want to keep the rural character, or do we want to address that we have a major housing crisis and increased density? Like this is all things that we went through when we were writing the comp plan. But again, just looking at Delta County, at the surrounding areas are all A5, A20, and A35. So that's the acreage of the lots. Single family detached for Delta County is allowed by right in all of those. An accessory dwelling unit is allowed by right in all of those. Additional residents are limited, but they do not require public notice. So that would be an administrative review for compliance with applicable standards. But other than that, there is no limitation even on a second residence on county lots as low as 5 acres size. Just for context. What have you seen in your experience for that type of zoning district for a density?
The larger the lot, the more permissive. But they tend to not be multiple houses, they tend to be outbuildings.
Right. Right, and
Enormous garages, I've seen like 40-foot high garages, 100 and some feet long.
Well, that's essential though, right?
That's right, when you have 4 or 5 campers, you gotta store in your house.
Right.
Because you can use that many.
See your boat. But that tends to be the use, so residential. Other than a duplex, which would be somewhat different.
So to me, that would fall because the definitions in the zoning, a duplex would be a 2-family residence rather than 2 single-family residences. And that's covered in table 2, where that requires a special use review for a state.
But that kind of doesn't make sense. You would think it'd be more permissible things.
It'd be more, you guys, it's more dense. but-
Yeah, well, less dense, but I mean, you've got a much larger lot. So you could put a duplex on it and it wouldn't look any different than a single house.
So aside from being a commissioner, being an administrator and having the experience you had, what would you think? Because to me, this is, this table 16-2 is, it's just a blank spot and that wasn't intended to be there. So
I
what
think
was our
that-
intention? Do you think that 3 was just to be
the-
carried down? Do you think it was supposed to be a 6?
I think that was a typo.
You don't think 2 should have ever been there?
No, because they just carry it on from the earlier ones.
Mm-hmm.
And what would you put in there?
But they don't carry it down any further either. I mean, they were just populating.
And what do the first ones even mean? First one means you can have one house on 6,000
Square feet.
square feet. And 2 is on 8,000 square feet, so.
And in our
And the
3.
next one is
is the same.
6,000 for both of them, so those aren't additive, right?
Right, because again, R 3 is intended to be more dense than R 2, and so
Mhm.
you can have.
So, I mean, if you wanted to add something to it, like I said earlier, if you put 2. It becomes per 1.5 acres, because you just cut it in half.
Or we could put, 2 dwelling units where we have a 6-acre minimum lot.
Yeah. So it just doubles the size, you can do that too.
Vice Chair Doherty has her hand up. Vice Chair Doherty?
Thank you. Yeah, my instinct is that it would be 6 acres if you were trying to think of the intent of E1 as an estate, because if 3 acres is the minimum for one dwelling, and it's a large sort of agricultural farming situation, you would have 6 acres for 2, which is totally different from an accessory dwelling unit.
Right.
You may be allowed to have 1 plus an accessory on 3 acres, or 1 plus an accessory on 4.5 acres, or something, something else. But to have 2 single family in an E1, I would normally see it as having more acreage, or double, so 6 acres.
Thank you, Vice Chair Doherty. Yes, Commissioner Everett.
That's what I was thinking, that 1.5 acres for a residential dwelling is fine, but the intent of this zoning is to provide that and acreage for animals and all of those operations. So yes, I could see where having 2 residences on 3 acres and still preserve the other uses might not be the intent that we talked about earlier in our earlier deliberation. So the suggestion that 2 would require then 6 acres, that makes sense. I guess the question is there somewhere in between that the commission would want to consider? But I like the 6 acre idea if you're going to have 2 separate residences.
Thank you very much. Coordinator Buckland.
To point to the comprehensive plan, one of the things that's mentioned in the urban farm district, it does say clusters of houses specifically, so that might be something, I don't know if that would be added and that you could have them, but they could not be separated, but they have to be close to each other, which would preserve the acreage around as kind of a different way of looking at it.
That would be what I would call conservation development.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's entirely different.
That's entirely different.
Okay, never mind then.
Okay.
I mean, you can do that. Because people like to have open land more, just shove the houses really close,
Right, sacrifice that privacy.
and then you get more open land.
That makes sense. Okay. So it looks like, the question before us is,
Public comment?
yeah. I am meditating, it's hurting me.
Okay, great, let the public talk.
But,
Oh, Margaret. has-
Vice Chair, Doherty?
Thank you. I'm just looking in the staff report in the zoning code. It says that E1 is state residential. Development of single-family residential areas on 3 to 10 acre lots.
Okay. That clarifies some things, doesn't it? It's stated 3 to.
But does it,
State.
well, yeah, it
So in
doesn't.
other words, you wouldn't go below 3 for 2. Because
Right.
you need at least 3 for each, is how I would interpret what I'm reading.
Thank you. Any public comment?
I just wanted, I was noticing, there's a 6,000 square feet required in one of the zones that moved, it's 16.2 tables. Anyway, yes, that one. So there was 6,000 square feet required and then 8,000, so that's not a doubling right there. So I was just wanting to point that out. You know, something besides a doubling might be, I don't know, more appropriate.
Thank you.
I'll think it's time to.
Okay.
I'm Hal Brill, live at 1991 Hot Haven Road. Thanks. My interest is really piqued by the conservation development question that just surfaced here. We have a 7 acre and 2 4 acre, I believe, something like that. What you're talking about with the doubling, the 7 acre would have it by right, and I'm wondering what could happen on the 4 acre pieces. We are imagining things like farm worker housing. We would love the property to be an urban farm, to be able to grow. If you're actually doing agriculture, you need a place for your workers. I'm wondering if there could be a way to map out if development is confined to a certain acreage, that 2 houses could be allowed by, without a special permit, by doing the clustering that you brought up there. That's, and this is just, I think it would be, I think that would meet a lot of, that would be, have your cake and eat it too. We get more housing with, in our case, we have water for 6 houses, and we have a CDOT permit for 6 houses. It would be nice to provide, rural housing for people who want to be part of something. I don't know what goes into crafting the code, but that's my only opinion.
Thank you very much.
So also gonna say that the complicating part is, we see that like in the county where ADUs are allowed and we've kind of skirted around the issue because we don't have an ADU code and we will at some point.
Someday.
Right, so that would be great if
Yeah.
ADUs were allowed by,
Yes.
just automatically, and
Yeah.
that would take care of a lot, depending on how big an ADU can be.
Oh, I was going to say to Ms. Ellison's point, those square footages she mentioned are not doubling, but on the other hand, those don't account for the animal use and the agricultural nature either. So in that sense, it's not really comparing apples to oranges. I do have a question though, regarding, for example, worker housing. We're talking about two separate residences, but it could easily be a duplex am I correct with that?
You would have to have a special review.
Right, okay.
Unless you decided to change that piece of the code and allow it by right, which you could do.
So really, the fact that it's a 4 acre lot, you can't get to, even if you change it to a minimum of 6, still doesn't preclude that idea because you could get a special use.
And hopefully ADUs will come into play at some point.
Yes, so we'll be ready.
Have someone.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with what Commissioner Everett says as far as that it doesn't scale the same way as far as residential districts and the state or rural districts. Again, going back to the county, just because that's a more of a apples to apples comparison. So the county, when they did their land use code, they don't do it by density. They don't say this many dwelling units per this acreage. What they say is you need at least 1 acre for each wastewater system. So if you have multiple residences, you need multiple wastewater systems, you need more acreage, but it's more along those lines, just as an FYI. Yeah, I mean, given all the discussion, I think I would lead towards a 6 acre requirement on the minimum lot area for 2 separate 1 family dwelling units. Where my head's at.
I would agree based on everything I've heard this evening, but with the livestock and agriculture taken into effect, that's the whole point of the estate zoning, right? To have a family, so you need property to do that, acreage. That seems like enough room for a good start.
I suppose I have one other observation. If we act on this, by that, are we covering all of the potential confusions in this? For example, it will not affect this applicant. But if someone comes in and says, okay, I have a 10 acre lot, I want it to be an E1, can I put 3 houses on it?
Yes.
Or 4?
We can do that.
E3, yeah, but not 4. I mean, I guess what I'm saying is, has this been considered holistically enough to avoid these kind of questions in these particular pieces of the code in the future? Or does it need another further study by the staff before we act on it?
That's a good question. Have we thought about that? Yeah, I think it seems pretty clear cut. Like a 10 acre parcel, you can have 3 dwelling units on that.
Oh, I have a thought on that, because the description that Commissioner Doherty read for estate, it's limited to 10 acres. So if we could keep, I guess, the question being, if we have 9 acres, can we do 3? And that would be the last.
Functionally, yes.
Yeah, or would you want to go up by 2 acre increments so that each of those acres can be used for housing?
Vice Chair Doherty?
I think the way the code is written right now, it only contemplates up to 2 units per lot. So in the scenario you're talking about, you would have to subdivide to get up to 3. So it would be, we would start adding rows in this table and say, you know, if you wanted 3 units per lot, then we would have to come up with the square footage on that lot. But as it's written right now, your only options are 1 unit or 2 units.
With no other options available.
Well, you have to.
I have heard, yeah,
This table is written.
okay. Thank you.
In reality though, because if they aren't individual lots, they aren't individual 3 acre lots, they could do conservation development on that property if they wanted. They could put all 2 or 3 right next to each other.
No, there's nothing saying they couldn't.
No,
It's their process. Any more discussion? What are we thinking?
I guess I have one more thing to say, just in terms of what staff has presented us tonight. I think it sounds like there's a little more, if you want, staff, it's up to you, a little more work to figure out, are some of these typos, or were they meant to be there? Or is there a footnote? You know, there's a little bit of work. I think that the table, the way it is right now, given the definition of estate residential, it's okay to leave it blank. I think because it says 3 to 10 acres, so we know the minimum is 3. So even if we leave the table the way it is, it contemplates 3 acres per unit. We could try to clarify it, and we could decide as a group to recommend that it go to 6 if you have 2 units. But the other changes that you're recommending in here, I don't know if staff, if you feel comfortable with your recommended motions, or if you want to go back and do a little more research, or what you're thinking.
Yeah, I'd like to look at the last 2. I'm not that Commissioner Hunter probably did not do a very thorough job looking for those 2. But yeah, I think she's explained the first one very well, and that can just be a very quick font change. But yeah, I'm not sure what those last 2 are doing still. So I would not mind spending some more time on it, if that's what the commission wanted.
I personally would like to see the commission answer staff's question. I mean, I think that the lack of having an entry in that one cell of table 16-2 is causing difficulties for staff. And they've come to the commission asking for answers, and I would like to give them an answer on that one. I agree with not taking it beyond that, but I think it would be a good thing for this commission to do, just to fill in that one box, or at least recommend that to the board.
I don't think that's unreasonable. Sure.
Yeah, that one, there's clearly something missing.
Yeah. So is that where we need to put that? That's where we need to put in 6 acres, or recommend that's 6.
Yeah,
Well,
6.
6 acres, because there's 3 acres for one, and then the 2 and big blank spot for. Yes, ma'am.
You're right. I mean, that is one way to go. At this moment, I understand that if somebody had an E1 3 acre, they could come and request a special review for consideration for a second house. Is that right? Is that where it stands now?
I believe where it stands now is that for a special review in E1, you could request a 2-family dwelling, which is different from 2 1-family dwellings.
Thank you.
Yes.
Right. I've forgotten that whole question about like duplex versus.
Right. So yes, so with 3 acres, by right, you have 1 single-family dwelling unit. If we make this change, 6 acres would allow for 2 single-family dwellings by right, and then by special review, you can get a 2-family dwelling. Under special review, not by right.
Okay, and so you just pointed out a couple of things that you're considering changing it to 6 acres, but still requiring a special review. Is that what I just heard?
I wasn't gonna recommend any changes to table 16-1, which is what says under E1 district, 2-family dwellings require a special review. I wasn't proposing any changes to that. My only thought is in the table 16-2, because there's clearly some missing information.
Right.
That staff doesn't know what to do with, that we give some direction on that one. And my recommendation there would be 6 acres.
Okay. I'm just trying to understand. There are a couple of forks in the road.
Another way to look at that, and maybe that is something you should look at, is when these other zones go up, they don't double.
Right, because I don't think that like in a state or a rural district scales the same way residential does. Right, the intention of moving from R1 to R2 to R3 is to get more and more dense. To have that density where we plan to zone for that, right?
Yeah. I was just saying maybe 2 acres when you go to the second house.
Mhm. not doubling,
One
but
perhaps.
proportional
Then half
somehow.
it issue, you could do that as well.
Mhm.
Be like 3 acres for one, 4 acres for two, and then no.
And I'm certainly open to discussion on that. Like, I think I would like to see this commission give staff an answer for that cell. And my initial reaction is 6 acres, but I'm not tied to that. I don't have the science behind that, which is kind of.
If, and the other question is like, what might be quote by right and what might be by special review? Because special review, then you can look at each situation.
Totally.
I'd also say, I hear the concern for having enough acreage to do agriculture, but in this day and time, a lot of agriculture is more intensive on small acreage. And we do have really good irrigation, for our property as an example, we have good irrigation rates. But it wouldn't be flood irrigating the whole property, which is not what we've done. So, you can do commercial farming on an acre easily and do it on less. So it just, I guess I'm supporting the idea to reconsider whether it needs to go all the way to 6 acres to have 2 dwellings. I think smaller requirement.
I'm currently looking to see other Colorado cities and how they're doing, how they change their acreage.
I did that too. I didn't find any good comps, which is why I went to the county.
It's like, well, yeah, they have it, then they go.
Look at the acre.
Yeah, and I've seen rather than like estate zoning, they do rural residential that has a higher zoning than like our estate.
Right.
Mhm.
And
But
Colorado things has the estate, but it's limited to single family.
I'd be up for changing the name. No.
you wanna live on an estate?
And right with one of those big entry arch things.
That's the grand entryway. With the landscaping.
Yeah, right. You pay for it.
Right.
But again, just to state my opinion on this and looking back at your lot sizes, like even if we went down to 5 acres. I don't see going down to, again, you're at 6.8, 4.0, and 3.35. I don't see going as low as it would take for you to get 2 houses on all of them.
On the 3-1, totally understand.
If you went to 2, we could do 2 on the 4.0 something.
Right.
But it would be 5 instead of 6.
Right, if we went to 5 acres instead of 6 acres, but that still wouldn't get them. 2 of your lots would still only have 1 single family residence and 1 would have 2,
Go down to 4.
which would be the same whether it's 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Just saying in your instance, just FYI.
4 would be our magic number.
For all those other people.
Commissioner Evans.
I take those comments well, and that makes sense for this applicant, but if we change that box, we're changing it for every potential applicant.
And
If an applicant in the future has a good argument for decreasing it from 6, 5 or 4, whatever, it's their prerogative at that time to come before the commission or the board of trustees and ask for that.
Right.
Right.
So
I'm just curious, is R2 right now, I mean, you can have 2 separate houses?
Depending on your lot size, up to 6. I believe.
That's why I asked.
We
in-
just give up the right to have 2 houses, right?
That's why I know when you said that, I'm like, okay, here we go.
Yeah.
Davidson farmer.
That's true.
Vice Chair Doherty.
I just want to point out that if we go below 3, I think we have to change the definition of a state 1 district because that definition says 3 to 10 acres. Just so if we go to less than 6 for 2 as of right, because this what we're talking about in this table is as of right. Someone would come, they don't have to come before us. They have enough acreage. But as you were all discussing, if someone came for a special use review and wanted to do more creative lot sizes and had a way of maybe clustering the homes in a certain area to create a large agricultural area on the property and all of that, that would be the kind of thing, like you said, you would do through a special use review. But the way our zoning is written right now, the definition of estate is 3 is the minimum per unit. So we'd have to change
Commissioner Doherty,
to.
given your history and experience in planning, which I know is quite extensive, I'm curious what your thoughts would be for that number in the box for the minimum lot area for 2 dwelling units in a state 1 district.
I would do 6 acres because of the definition of a state 1 district. I think it's very unique to ever have more than 1 unit on a single lot. The reason it would be it's not I don't think this contemplates duplexes, as we were saying. It really contemplates single family homes, and it is common in rural areas where you have maybe a farm and then the kids build a house and they're on the same lot, but they're, now you've got two houses on 1 lot. That is a common agricultural situation, but it anticipates a lot of acreage. So the acreage, you wouldn't be going down unless you're doing some kind of clustering, because again, especially for this application, the reason they want to go to a state is because it allows farm animals. And it's
We just lost you.
Yeah.
Hello?
The next logical thing would be to fill in 3. If it's 3 to 10 acres, you gotta have an answer for bigger than 6.
I sorry, I don't know when you lost me. Sorry.
There she is. She's back.
Anticipating this, what was it? Where was she?
Do you remember where you left off?
Well, I'll keep it short. I would, in case I lose you again for some reason, I would put 6 acres because of the definition of estate and because it allows a more agricultural uses such as animals, farm animals.
Thank you. I would tend to agree with that. And my thought on filling in the empty box and then not carrying it down farther is because to me, it really looks like there's missing information here. But yeah, in that box, but I don't know that if it hasn't come up before staff yet, I don't know that we need to carry it down to 3 at this point.
I was just commenting on this 3 to 10.
Yeah,
So it's a weird increment.
right.
Coordinator Buckard?
So I'm wondering if there a way to, so that I'm seeing a lot of zoning that talks about agriculture clusters versus agricultural non-clusters in most places that I'm looking. Is there a way to add a special review option for 2 single-family dwellings, but by special review? Which would be, I think it would be adding to the previous chart.
So here are my thoughts to stay on the agenda. Is that we fix the 1 cell. We answer staff's question, and then if staff would like us as a commission to look at more zoning, then we should agendize that and do that in another meeting with more research.
With a proposal.
With the proposal. Okay, is everybody ready for me to make a motion?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see.
That's the middle.
I move to recommend to the Board of Trustees to pass an ordinance revising Table 16.2 within the Paonia Municipal Code Section 13.3-30 in the column for E1 district. Minimum lot area, square footage, be 6 acres for 2 dwelling units permitted by right. Right, yeah.
May we have a second?
Second.
I have a roll call vote, please.
May I ask for a point of clarification?
Yes.
That does not address those other questions at all,
Correct.
nor does it deny them at all.
Correct. It doesn't address them at all because I think it sounded to me like staff was gonna do some
Okay.
more.
Thank you.
on that. Is that all for you?
Yes.
Okay.
Vice Chair Doherty,
Aye.
Commissioner Everett,
Aye.
Commissioner Fisher,
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter,
Aye.
and Commissioner Sun.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Motion carries. Thank you. That is all for this evening. We shall adjourn this planning commission meeting at 7:10 PM. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Allison, you got me into this. Thank you.